Simpsons Index, an online spreadsheet that is also a podcast. This is the podcast.
Coming to you from SideQuest Studios, this is The Simpsons Index, episode 281. Hello out there, I'm your host, Elliot Jay O'Neill, joined here as always, except when he's not, by PT Calloway.
Oh, sorry, I was busy sharpening some knives.
Oh. I hope they're not for our wonderful guests. All the way from beautiful Adelaide is Pods in the Key of Springfield, James.
I can subscribe.
Yep, that's me.
And Nick.
Hello!
Howdy. How are your knives?
I'm disappointed that you, when we start the recording, you should be doing the Simpsons Index part every single time. It should be a fresh record.
It's a terrible strain on our voice artists' wrists. What?
That much wankery, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to sharpen their knives. It's a real like you've got to get the right flick. It's terrible stuff. No, my knives are pretty good because there's one of the supermarkets is currently doing a Flybuys promotion where you can get free knives. So I've recently upgraded a ton of my knives.
Nice.
Oh my god, my dad's been obsessed with that, and we have to get fucking Flybuys on his behalf and all that shit. And it's become a whole thing in the family group chat.
Why does your dad need more? I have questions.
We're cutting things, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen this sort of family group chat domination since Wordle was a thing, you know, when...
Remember Wordle?
Yeah.
I still play Wordle every day.
Nice.
But do you bother the group chat about it?
Legitimately, yeah. Like, there's actually one chat where three of us every day are still posting our Wordles, and we now do our connections.
There's
we
the
now do our
tiles.
connections as well.
Connections is tight.
The
though.
only person I ever message about Wordle is Nick. And I wish I just had on hand Nick. Remember that time I did Wordle while I was a little drunk, and I sent you the...
Oh, that was amazing.
Let me see if I can find it. Vamp for a moment, because this is...
You've never seen black, yellow, and green tiles arranged in such a way.
No, it was a series of words that he guessed leading up to the correct word while very drunk. If I remember correctly, this story is it was like back of a taxi on the way home from town or something.
It was something like that. I've got it here. I took 6 guesses.
Mhm.
These are the words that I wrote, and the last one was correct. Thunk was my starter word. And
Yep,
then
starter word.
bunts. And then
Yeah.
It sounds
booth,
like a Demi Lardner character.
thunk bunts. And then my third word, the most normal one, was Luna.
Mhm.
And then pungy. And then mungo. And then the word was fungi.
Mungo Fungi. There's an Auntie Donna character.
Reading this back, I don't know why this brings me such pleasure.
It just does.
Thunk, bunts, Luna, pungy, mungo, fungi. As I'm reading, I'm like, is anyone listening to this podcast going to find this funny in the way I do? Is everyone immediately switched off? But no, I think it's good.
I'm compelled to Google what the hell mungo means.
The amazing bit is it's not the only highlight you've sent me of your Wordle selections, James, because looking at our chat history to find that, I also found, I believe this is yours, where you've written, "Crank those fluid, buddy." And buddy was correct, which makes it even better.
The wild thing about that is, looking at it now, when I got up to buddy, I only had 2 yellows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before that, fluid, it was the U and the D.
And that's the thing. Fourth guess is not when you start just throwing out the double letters, you know, as a tactic-wise. Yeah. That's amazing.
For everyone playing at home, mungo is cloth made from recycled, woven, or felted material. So many Muppets are in fact mungo.
Wow.
Wow.
That's Mungo Puppets. That's Muppet. We fucking solved it.
It's not
Well,
quite
not
a
quite a
Muppet, it's
mungo.
not quite a puppet, it's a mungo.
I don't think we actually need to talk about this episode. I think we've,
No, don't block my segue. I was just about to say, speaking of things you can also find on Disney+. Look, before we hook into the episode today, I just wanted to throw it out to you wonderful guests. Have you been keeping up with The Simpsons at all? Or is The Simpsons Index Obligations the only time you've revisited the wonderful 36-year-old series?
Weirdly enough, I watched the first episode of season 36, would be the most recent one. the other day, and I thought it was not bad, pretty interesting, pretty fun.
Just for those playing at home, so for the Simpsons season 36 premiere, you Simpsons fans, I'm sure you already know this, but they did their series finale as their season premiere, which I thought pretty good bit that they landed pretty well.
Yeah, it actually had some jokes in it, which I enjoyed. And weirdly, when I was going onto Disney Plus to watch this episode that we watched for the episode, the podcast episode tonight, the little bar showing progress was on several of the episodes above and below. And I realized, I've seen quite a few of the episodes this season. I just skipped over this one for some reason. I guess we'll find out why when I watch it, and we'll talk about that.
Was it fate? Was the subject matter? Let's find out. But first, how about you, Nick? Have you dipped your toes into the yellow waters?
Piss. It's weird to ask me if I'm a piss pig. I mean, you just asked James if he's watching The Simpsons. Elliot, what
Do you
the
like
hell?
dipping those piggies in some piss?
You don't really need to ask Nick. It's plastered all over his face.
That's a different fetish.
Oh no! I heard a good joke the other day. This is gonna be too telegraphed now. What's the difference between a lentil and a chickpea? Perverts don't pay to have a lentil on their face. Anyway, probably don't need that in the episode. But anyway,
Release that as its own episode.
Just titled "What Nick Did."
I'm going to give a nice clean edit point.
Yep.
Well, Elliot, no, I haven't really been. You can't all laugh when I say "well, Elliot." Well, Elliot, no, I haven't really been keeping up with the Simpsons or the Kardashians for that matter. But
Also on Disney Plus.
I
What
reckon
about the Joneses?
I reckon the last time I watched anything Simpsons related was the last time I was on here, which was the golf one where they all kept saying WODs a lot.
Yeah, WOD goals.
WOD goals.
That's right.
WOD goals.
Didn't mind that one. Too much WOD though.
Too much WOD.
About the goals.
How about you, Beach? Do you watch The Simpsons outside of watching at least one episode a week?
I keep meaning to return to some classics to kind of recalibrate my brain, because as we get further and further into the weeds, I feel like I'm losing sight of what this show once was and can be. This one was a sharp reminder. So we'll delve into that as we segue along. But no, not really.
Also, do I hear a cat in someone's background?
Yeah, sorry, that might be my cat. I've got the door shut, but she is screaming. I have a deaf cat, so all of her yells are very pronounced.
Before we, we've already had so many diversions. We do not have time to dig into deaf cat riff. So I will just say today.
I think we might.
Well, yes, I wanted to bring you guys on to review this one because, of course, we did the Mona Simpson trilogy a few years ago now, and so let's do a continuation of it. Why not? This was Season 33, Episode 9, Mothers and Other Strangers. First released in November of 2021, it was directed by Rob Oliver, written by Al Jean. In this episode, it's a bit of a flashback episode. It's Mother's Day, so Homer's reminiscing about his mother and how he found out that she disappeared, and going on a road trip with Grandpa to find her, and also how she secretly visited Homer in the hospital when Bart was born. Hey guys, what do we think?
It's fair to say that Al Jean is like the villain of The Simpsons, right? I think historically, just if you look at the show's general decline, including his weak points in later seasons, usually Al Jean is behind it.
Mm-hmm.
While we're discussing his crimes, wasn't it him who suggested they change the ending of Bart gets hit by a car to that ending we don't like?
That's a very bad ending.
Yeah. Was that him? I know it was a producer.
Oh, for the sake of his character assassination, yeah, let's say that.
Yeah, get him. Send him to a local mortician.
I also remember, I haven't checked in with him for a while, but he used to be quite bad at Twitter. He just tweeted like an old man.
Oh, yeah. That episode that they did where they bit back at Harry Kondabolu's problem with our poo documentary. He went on a Twitter tirade where he was just replying to everybody, myself included.
And he would also, when he meant to post an image, he would post like a screenshot of the image. And it would have like the URL bar and like his battery information. I remember replying to him once like, Al, you gotta stop doing this. You can save the image and then post it as a regular picture.
It's no surprise, given The Simpsons, he's penned like he just got no sense of when to edit, when to crop things, when to leave certain shit out. Yeah. Anyway, what do you think, Nick?
I just love that, like, James tells a story about, like, Boomer posting on Twitter, and you're like, yeah, actually, that says a lot about his inability to edit. It's like, wow, that is a slick pull.
I told you,
really
he is good at segues. He's developed that over the 270 episodes or whatever we're at.
He has. Look, today's episode had some bits that I liked, and a couple of bits where I was just staring at the screen going, no, don't do that.
Yep.
But, I mean, broadly, I liked it. It's not the best episode of The Simpsons I've seen, but yeah.
Yeah, some fans bit back at the time for perceived continuity breaks and all the rest. I don't know. I don't think it did the worst job of all that stuff, but fairly inconsequential episode, it sort of feels like, which is weird for something that's attempting to fill out a bit more backstory.
I feel like this is going to be an interesting episode of the podcast. I'm feeling it already. So let's delve into it.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right, we'll start with you then, James. For better or worse, what's a moment that stands out to you?
Moment that stands out to me. I'm flicking through my notes, which are extensive, but also not really saying that much as I look at them.
How many pages, James? How many pages?
Well, good question. How many pages of note? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Damn.
5 pages.
Man,
which is
it's
not that
thorough.
many, I suppose.
Wait, we're
but,
talking A3 or A4?
Yeah, what's the notebook size here?
well, this is an
A5,
A5 notebook, I want to say.
Okay.
So wait, one of these guys?
Yeah, A5.
Yeah,
I think
it's not as nice as that one, but it's like a very cheap notebook.
Are you like double spacing? Are you drawing like big margins? Like
My writing is just a fucking mess. I was trying to find the note where I wrote the first time there was a joke that I kind of enjoyed. It was 6 minutes and 30 seconds into the episode, where there's a flashback to the past, where Chief Wiggum is talking to Homer, and he sees a donut store, and he says, "Donuts,
yes.
what are those? I'd better investigate." And the notion of him being a young man in his 20s who doesn't know what donuts are kind of tickled me. So I wrote that down as like first laugh. Did I write another note explaining laughs further down in the episode? No, I did not.
I'm surprised because that got number 2 of 4 groans from me. Like, oh, thank God. Now we know the origin of Police Chief Wiggum discovering donuts. Thank God this episode covered that.
I think I just enjoyed the general surrealist idea of him not knowing what they were at all.
And not only that, but determining that it was worthy of police investigation. Like, I'd better use my resources on this. I enjoyed that too.
And that it was pronounced donut, not do not, as anyone who looking at the simplified word would assume.
It's a good point.
And I suppose the other thing I noticed is that this is the Mona Simpson episode, and we are cursed to watch every Mona Simpson episode on this podcast.
You know what? I've literally held back because, like, especially the 20s, like, Simpsons were just had a hard-on for retconning Mona Simpson stuff and, like, got Glenn Close back for so many appearances and, like...
And usually just very brief ones that just made her and Abe's relationship worse.
Yeah, like, they try to paint this picture that their relationship was way more argumentative and contentious, whereas, yeah, in the original one, and I'd say to this episode's credit, they, display the marriage as, one of 2 people that just don't communicate, like, let alone fight. Yeah, actually, how about you, Nick? What stands out to you from this one, for better or worse?
The bit that stood out to me, and I actually don't know if it's for better or worse, but when Flashback Homer and Flashback Abe are going on the road trip to see if they can track down Mona. There's a bit where they're sitting on the bonnet of the car under a starry sky.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, are you reverse engineering a deeper meaning into, I think, what everyone generally accepts as being the heaviest frame in all of The Simpsons? When, you know, I mean, everyone knows the fucking scene I'm talking.
You mean Bart's little dick in the movie?
I am. Oh, also,
Little Dick, heavy frame.
7 seconds in to this episode, there's a bit of the Simpsons movie, and I was like, is Elliot tricking me into watching the Simpsons movie?
I also have that in my notes. Nick's love of recording podcasts about the Simpsons movie.
Again, pure coincidence. I didn't know that. I hadn't watched this episode prior to saying, yeah, let's do this one. And yeah, I didn't know this was a thing, which is funny because... Nick, you seem to be wanting me to review the Simpsons movie not only just once, but like multiple
many
times.
I want you to worst idea of all time.
Nick has been pitching this to me for years now.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
Yeah, well, James and I were reminiscing about this the other day that when we were doing a lot of Pods in the Key of Springfield, I had an idea. Thank you. Because I hated the Simpsons movie so much, I had an idea about, like, why don't we just do a thing where we watch it constantly for 24 hours and I think it was every 90 minutes we'll do a 15-minute review, or I had some system in my head. And James's response was along the lines of, like, look, we're very good friends, but I would actually fear for my safety in that situation. And I'm like, well, all right.
The level of rage it would inspire in you, I think.
Yeah, which I think is the right choice. But then I just think it would be funny if you had, you do the Simpsons movie, you get every attainable guest that you can get back, but then Elliot and BT have to watch it again each time before recording every guest segment.
Yeah.
Hate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to those who are still wondering what our plans are for that, the launch of the Starring Springfield as a free podcast, I'm looking at doing some sort of crossover with it, and I've got guests in mind, but nothing to announce at this stage. So I will try to smoothly segue back into Nick. Was that what stood out to you, Butts, little dick?
No, not Bart's little dick. No, the bit of the starry scene that's sitting on the car.
And yes.
They're trying to reverse engineer an extra degree of the other thing on that same road trip that stood out to me. The other thing was we're driving down a highway in Utah, I believe it was, or towards Utah, and the spirit coyote from Homer's what's the word? Hallucination from Homer's hallucination. The spirit coyote was there. What's he fucking doing there? That doesn't exist in real life.
It's under my notes of wackiness.
It's just one of those things of like, hey, remember this from before?
I think I must have missed that because I was busy writing a note about how bored I was.
Yeah, that's fair.
On an incredibly large note that, took an entire page on its own. Oh, yeah, I missed it too. But yeah, like at least with that Starry Night thing, that is something that you could say, oh, that could be a reference, but I don't know, like... At least, do you think they used like the same shot or something of the car in a far distance? Or
yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't gone back to compare them, and it's weird because on the one hand, I don't mind it necessarily if it's a reference, but it specifically felt like they were trying to imbue that scene from whatever it was with an extra layer of meaning by incorporating it into this middling episode.
I get you. It's like the space. Is it doing it in the same way that they're doing the space coyote? Like, hey, remember this? Or are they doing it in the sense of here are parallels of the past coming to what we know eventually is the best Mona episode? So I can understand the split. I do not have that much faith in this one anyway. Sorry.
Yeah, and if they're doing the parallel to the past thing, if they're doing that, it came at the wrong part of the journey to have any poignancy.
Yeah.
Because it came at the part of the journey where Abe and Homer have only just set out on the quest to find Mona, which is not when that image goes. So then I was like, well, this must just be like a Family Guy cutaway reference for the sake of references. And I don't like those very much. So
yeah, well, I felt that a bit like just sort of in lazy, here's the origins of jokes where Homer cuts the umbilical cord by strangling it. And that was just like, there's the origins of that sort of thing. And yeah.
Yeah, I'm realizing as you were talking about that scene, I remember nothing else about it beyond the sky looking nice. I went to look at my notes for that scene and all I wrote is, fuck, this sucks shit.
Whoa. Don't get ahead of the rankings already. We got a first Ask BT. What stands out to you for better or worse?
Look, I was going to talk about a few things, but I also feel like we need to discuss the, gigantic flaming elephant in the room. And for that, I need to take you on a small journey of me watching this episode, which started off with seeing the thumbnail and being like, fuck, are we doing another Mona? Oh, we are too. He does this with the Pods of the Key. Damn it. All right, not the best start, but hey. And then we start off the episode's, bad, where they have the whole mutt flicks thing, and that was my first groan, but they do the whole, extended shots, but I won't delve too much. And then it gets a little better. I actually kind of started enjoying myself when we went on the road trip. We started the road trip between Homer and Abe, started off, okay. The one thing I'm going to beg this episode not to do is have Homer have any confirmation that Mona is alive at this point in his life. Like, he gets the postcard, and then he goes off on this adventure. I want him to be either it was someone else sending the postcard, or there's a moment where he nearly sees Mona but just misses her for whatever reason. And then, of course, as alluded to earlier, there's just a moment where Homer sees Mona and Mona sees Homer and they start running to each other. And I'm just like, don't, you fucking idiots. Why would you do that? And, I think you said earlier that it doesn't have a lot of people contentious on this and saying, it doesn't really rob the future episodes of it. Yes, the fuck it does. I'm sorry. I'm going to come down very hard on that. But someone who's taken a lot of shit for not hating that 90s show episode, because, but it ruins the continuity of B-Sharps. But it just moves the timeline like The Simpsons have done over and over and over again. But this just pulls the emotional rug out from, the Mother Simpson episode, because Homer would have known she was alive. That takes everything from that episode. So, fuck this episode forever.
Well, he does mention that he wasn't sure if her visiting him in hospital was a dream. But yeah, you're right. That scene at the gas station, that fully
there's
happened.
Too much confirmation for him to know for sure. And Abe even tells him, he's like, didn't Mum die? He's like, it was easy to tell you that. It's like, well, there you go.
I'm sorry, you are right, but I'm also just getting a notification here telling me that all of our girlfriends have left us.
Sorry about that.
I had a girlfriend.
And
it's really
not anymore, you know.
For Nick, it's the biggest surprise.
Yeah, I've been single for years.
Yeah, she gets half of everything. I'm very sorry.
Very funny. It's very funny how I do a big, I have a girlfriend, I've been single for years, and then I look over on my couch and there is a cushion that's shaped like a Christmas pudding. And it's like, fuck, I'm single. Anyway.
Half a pudding now.
I'm also freaked out. This isn't for the episode. I'm also freaked out by what my camera's doing because my face is so blown out and white on my screen.
You got some Jeff the Killer going on.
Ghostly.
I think I'm going to put some more lights on behind me to see if it balances or something. I don't know how. Because every time I catch a glimpse of myself, it's like I'm doing this in a kabuki mask. Not a bukkake mask. Different thing.
Oh, my God.
Different thing.
Better.
That's helped a bit.
Have you considered that you're just very pale?
Yes. I'm so pale that parts of me are blue.
He's the white and gold dress of people now. Is Nick white
He
or
looks
blue?
more blue and black.
Yeah. But yeah, what stands out to me, fucking mutt flicks. This is a somewhat recent trend of a Simpsons joke, just to do sort of walls of text jokes or just constant skits. And so, the premise, it's Netflix, but for dogs. Did any of the, James, you said your first positive note didn't come until 6 minutes in. That is well before the 6-minute mark. Did any of this do anything for anybody?
I don't think any of these count as jokes.
No.
It's just like an actual genre of video that exists.
Yeah. The closest I got was the clip of someone jingling keys at a camera. I'm like, all right, that's not awful. But everything else surrounding it and padding and boring.
Yep. Garbage.
Yeah. And you're right. It's just an actual thing. Yeah, we used to put on dog TV when I'd babysit my brother's dog, Roxy, all the time. She fucking loved it. Just watching squirrels hanging out and stuff. Really dug that shit.
Later on, there's a Game of Thrones parody called Game of Bones, I think. And there's the on-screen text explaining, what is going on. And even that is, completely unfunny and weirdly devoid of jokes. And bizarrely just gives you the actual ending of Game of Thrones instead of having a joke.
Yeah, it's a recap for the end of after the show has ended.
Or the first episode of Throne of Game, if you want to go that way. But
well, I was going to say, this joke appeals to me as someone who thinks you should start with the end of Game of Thrones, whatever.
Even just maintaining the name Bran Stark, they didn't come up with a fake name. Stan Buck was right there. What are they doing?
That's why he's boss of the Dickhead Factory, ladies and gentlemen.
That might be in the deleted scenes. We'll find out.
We talked about Dickhead Factories for a good 40 minutes before recording.
It's the title of the episode.
So if you listen to the deleted scenes and there's 3 minutes in there, just know that went for 37 more minutes.
Wasn't even joking around. It was all very serious and academic.
I thought it was a job interview. Shit. Is that not real? Damn it. Honey, I'm not getting the... Oh, you've left.
She's gone.
we also get an appearance from Santa's little helper's mother, who, after a recent-ish episode, we were like, do the Simpsons own her now? The question has been answered, no, but she comes to visit.
Wait, was she? Yeah. Has she been introduced previously?
Yeah.
Because they just said that, like, Santa's little helper invited her there. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
This raises questions.
I don't care how elastic your reality here is. The dog can't invite people around. Or at least if it can, that needs to be a joke. They can't just say that he did it.
Through the Muttflix app, it's got TV, games, and now a messaging service for your mother. So there is an episode called The Way...
Are you calling my mother a dog?
No, I'm calling dogs mothers dogs.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
There's a Simpsons episode, The Way of the Dog, season 31, episode 22. It's a Christmas episode, and kind of similar story to this, with Santa's little helper's got abandonment issues and trauma triggered by, being removed from his mum at such a young age, where the Simpsons go visit the old Greyhound racer, and he's still got Santa's little helper's mother. She's still alive. And the episode kind of ends with you thinking, oh, do the Simpsons just own Santa's little helper's mum now? Because that's kind of what it... But I guess the Greyhound guy must have been around in a scene that doesn't happen on this episode.
You're thinking about it more than the writers did.
Sounds like a barrel of laughs.
It would have been great if there was a Santa's Little Helper episode where if the dog's name was still Santos L. Halper, and he went to go and find what his middle name was, and there was a mural that said his middle name was actually E-L-L-E, and the dog was going, "It's L! My middle name's L!"
I just looked on your website, and it's the third highest rated episode from that season, so I guess it's not that bad.
Oh, no. I quite liked that one. I don't think you were so hot on it, Beach.
I brought it down with my cold heart.
Yeah.
And its lack of bringing its earlier established mechanics back.
Yeah, no, I stand up for that one, but I felt like, the way I was explaining it then made it sound like I was ripping shit on it. I quite enjoyed that episode. I guess my point was, I don't know why they brought Santa's little helper's mum in for this. It did nothing for the plot.
Because it's Mother's Day.
Yeah.
But there are several mothers on the show.
I know. Marge really gets gypped in this one.
Yeah, it was just there because to show that the kids were very aware that it was Mother's Day, but they hadn't put a single bit of thought into Marge.
They got her mugs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if we don't bring in any other actors, we don't have to pay them.
Yeah. Here's a little bit of Simpsons time loop theory stuff. So at the beginning of the episode, when Lisa presents Marge with yet another mom mug, let's just say that she only made them for Mother's Days, but there were a lot more than the 3 or 4 she would have made for primary school.
I was going to write that down for wackiness, but then I'm like, no, there's also like the birthday, Christmas, all kinds of occasions. They got away with that one from my scathing.
I don't know. That's 3 drawers full. That's a lot of mugs for.
A mug takes up a lot to space in a drawer, though.
It's a real.
Wait, why am I defending this episode? Yeah, continuity
really
break.
Putting a lot
failure.
of grease on the slippery slope of childishness that these children occupy. I think it's it didn't feel like a very Lisa action.
No, there are a few Lisa moments. There's quite a few integrity breaks in this one. So,
are you suggesting some kind of ground mug day? Where Lisa got stuck in a loop of just making mugs again and again and again.
Honestly, it does feel like this podcast is a ground pod day, given the amount of fucking
like and subscribe.
Similar feeling Simpsons episodes we have to review. Anyway.
You look and realize you've already done this one 5 times.
Honestly, sometimes I worry.
It is like the 6th Mona appearance.
Yeah. So how was the wacky? Was this a particularly cartoony episode of The Simpsons?
Yeah, I just saw this and it was... Sorry, the words showering Willy in the Matrix shouldn't make sense to me, but it does. Where when Homer connects to this like a therapy app and we kind of go through like a Matrix code green thing, and there's just a Willy showering for like no reason. It's just there. And I'm like...
Yeah.
Is it an ad? Is Willy doing sponsored tweets?
Is that his OnlyFans?
Yeah.
Whatever the Scottish OnlyFans is. I did find
only kills.
Only clans.
But there we go, only clans. More thought than they put into this joke. I did find the application of like Matrix green code to indicate going online kind of vaguely embarrassing.
Yeah,
it's such an outdated reference point. It's classic Al Jean bullshit.
I was just about to say, this is, Al Jean's probably last touch with something that happened in pop culture.
And I love The Matrix, but, it was a while ago now.
Quite a while.
Yeah, and the whole riff on the... Is it a Better Health riff? I've never done
That's
Better
kind
Health.
of my sense of it, which was also weird that Lisa was the one to recommend it. It feels like Lisa wouldn't be for an app, and also the fact that it's called Nuts feels like that would also be a red flag for Lisa, but,
It felt really like late 90s, early 2000s to just have a subplot in a TV show of like, wow, therapists are really bad, aren't they? All they want is money and they'll talk about your problems like they're a problem. It's like, what are you fucking talking about? This is 2021. Like, it felt so stale and dated, and it wasn't part of the flashback. Like it was part of the real time.
Yeah, there's a real anti-heart moment right at the end where, Homer gets to the end of his story and the therapist's like, oh, that wraps everything up. You're cured now. And then someone's like, no, you're supposed to drag this out and get more money out of them. She's like, he was so simple. I couldn't stretch it out. It's like, he's had this for, 30 years. And clearly it's having effects. And his solution was, I got married and transferred all my problems onto my wife.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of weird to just sort of say, oh, I realize the problem's actually already resolved, like at the end.
Yeah. And then coming up with that screen that was like, you've got closure. Oh, disclaimer, please note, closure is no longer a psychiatric approved term. And I was like, is that a real thing that psychiatry has moved past the idea of closure, or is this a joke that I don't get? Just a baffling series of events.
If only we could get closure on what that joke was about.
Someone tweet Al Jean, he'll reply.
Yeah, look, I'm sure Al Jean was really proud of that, and it was just like showing off to his wife, Stephanie Gillis, I think her name is. Look, see, I don't need therapy. All I need to do is write another Simpsons episode.
Yeah.
You have a lot of episodes of the Simpsons podcast when you know Al Jean's wife's name just off the top of your head.
To be fair, I don't know all the Simpsons cast and crew's wife's name. She did write a couple of episodes.
True.
I like that you extended that out to crew. Oh, I don't know all the crew's name.
Yeah,
all right. Tell me the gaffer's mum's name.
Why would a cartoon have a gaffer?
Yeah, I was thinking that as well.
I don't know.
He was just flipping through the spouse index and just looking through it.
My other podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, well, every week we'll rate another wife from the Simpsons cast and vocal crew.
To me, they're all 10s.
Any other cartoony moments that stood out to you?
Oh, I enjoyed in Abe's apartment, there was a book with a forlorn-looking man on the cover, and it said what to expect when you're expecting nothing.
Yeah.
That was an acceptable riff on a previous joke to me.
There was another good book.
Abe's Apartment, the overrated fourth game in the Oddworld series. Sorry to interrupt your actual point you were about to make for the stupidest joke I could think of.
No, I like the idea of doing an Oddworld that's like more Animal Crossing. Yeah, I'm down with that. Oddworld Happy Home Design. No, I laughed too hard then, and now I lost the note. But there was another.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, I was going to say there was another book there that I liked the joke, but then I was annoyed because when they changed camera angles, the spine of the book was still like dead center to camera, and I was like, Jordan's anal corner. Books don't work like that unless it's got on the... Yeah, no, it doesn't work like that. Anyway.
Two spines doesn't work.
Unless the spine of the book was made of retro-reflective mirrors. Mirrors that have a certain internal angle so that the angle of reflection is always the same as the angle of incidence.
Yeah,
that's
Elliot,
what I was
going to
say, but that would only explain why the text appears front on, not why the actual book itself would shift.
And I guess it would also be backwards.
Very good. Yes. And I think the book you're talking about, Elliot, was How to Yell at Children So They Will Listen to You.
Ah, there we go. Yeah, that was totally it.
Beautiful. My only other note of whack is the bit where Abe throws his hip flask away and a snake drinks some of it and vomits up a mouse.
Oh, what the fuck was that?
These shows have such a puritanical attitude towards alcohol. Like, if anyone ever takes a sip of a drink, it corrupts them totally.
'Tis the demon drink.
It's weird.
But it's also easy to just suddenly stop doing that.
Oh, I thought it was actually an interesting angle for this episode to depict Abe as an alcoholic in the past and, why he isn't still an alcoholic. I think that's an interesting thing to get into. It sort of did.
It does feel like they didn't really care about that, though.
It is also weird that he gets over his problems with Homer before they go on the road trip. That's odd.
Yeah, the road trip's where you work that shit out.
It's called an arc,
Yeah.
Al Jean. Yeah.
Yeah, because when Homer gets the car and starts driving out of the garage to go on the road trip, and Abe is in the back of the car and wakes up and is like, "No, I'm stopping you from doing this," and then they decide it's like maybe this was just too cliche and Al didn't want to do it. But isn't the way you would do that? Abe wakes up and says, well, sometimes I just like to sleep in the car.
No,
Where the hell are we? Where are we going? Well, I'm going on this, and now we're stuck together doing it. Like,
Yeah, way better. And then even have a bit of the joke of like, I drank too much at the bar, so I slept in the car. It's like you drove the car home first. Well, close enough.
There we go.
Good.
There's some alcoholic humor there.
Writes itself.
This
Al.
whole episode just there's so many things about it that don't quite hang together. Like, I know that dissecting the plot and storytelling of an episode of late period Simpsons is sort of a it's a Sisyphusian pushing the boulder up the hill sort of situation. But like, there's
That's
the
what
scene.
we do.
There's the scene where Homer gets the postcard in the past with the instructions not to tell his dad, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to keep this secret."
Yep.
Very next scene is him going to his dad and telling him about it. With no real explanation for what changed in between the two scenes, or why he's now telling him, or really any impetus for any of this shit. It's just such a, like, if anyone had looked at this script at all, like, it would stand out to you immediately. It's like, this is a weird thing in here. It doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, it gives it the stink of, the boss has a script. Everybody like it, okay?
No, literally the point in the episode where I had to rewind because I thought I missed something. I was like, oh, wait, was it a plant by the FBI? What the... I felt like I zoned out, and I'm like, oh, no, I was paying attention.
Yeah.
This wasn't.
Yeah.
But I guess that segues into the heart. How does the emotions in this episode?
Awkwardly, if at all.
I'm going to say dead on arrival. Like, once it clicked to me, oh, this is going to be an episode about Homer dealing with his feelings about his mother. I'm like, well, that's an easy layout. Like, the emotions are going to flow freely. And then I felt nothing the whole episode.
Yeah.
Nothing but irritation.
Look, I just kind of found one of my own notes that really kind of harks to this as well. It's a bit where the present Homer did get for Marge was a picture, the nice photo frame with a picture of the kids in it. But as he's looking at it, it transitions to a photo of, him, young Homer and Mona on like a log ride together. And Mona's like, this picture is the last memory you have of me. And it's slowly fading away. And it's like, is when he took that photo ever going to come back in this episode? It doesn't. So we never get any context for that. And also, at this point, he's met her again. She's come back like 5 or 6 times. Yeah. Yes, she died.
Several of them in this very episode.
and we've never seen that photo
it's
before.
Utterly meaningless.
And I felt like this was just doing a version of a story that we thought The Simpsons did kind of well, which was Todd, Why Hast Thou Forsaken Me? I think it's in this season even, where, Todd realizes in his dreams that he's not dreaming of Maud's face anymore, and she just appears as like a faceless person, and he's dealing with the...
Oh, that's quite haunting.
Oh, it begins with just buckshot of emotion. It's powerful.
Yeah.
It absolutely whiffs the landing and turns it into the Homer show.
It's The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Oh, Ellie, you must be getting confused. The show has never done that before.
It's one of these things where it's like, you guys have done this kind of recently. How did you whiff this? Like, how did you not have this idea land? Because that's quite a haunting idea. Like, that the memories are getting fuzzier and stuff like that as we age.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But like, for some reason, the photo just says directly to him, this is the last thought you have of me. And it's like, wouldn't it have been better to have him found an actual photo of Mona that was one of the last like physical relics he had, and that was actually deteriorating from the age of it?
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, fundamentally, there's just not an idea underlying this episode, I think. Yeah. And it's one of my notes. It says, why would you write this episode if you had no ideas for it? I just, I don't know what they thought they were doing exactly here. It's very unclear why they thought this was an appealing story, because it's not. It's kind of nothing.
Yeah,
we'll just put Mona in an episode. That always has a good landing.
Yeah, Glenn Close is cheap, isn't she?
Sure.
Honestly, she might be, because
she's not very far away.
Was it actually her? I didn't think it was.
No, that was her.
It was Jodie Foster, wasn't it?
Glenn Close, but no Glenn Cigar.
Good.
Is this the name of your new Glenn Close Focus podcast?
Yes, it is.
So you
About
said,
what, the wife? That was
oh, you were
her.
going to say Glenn Close tribute band, and I was all about it. Glenn Close enough.
Then close enough.
This
Closing-
episode also
Close
has...
Encounters of the Glenn kind. Sorry.
Rachel Bloom is in this episode as well, I noticed in the credits. Like, did not clock her at all during the episode.
Got to be the therapist then?
Yeah, speaking of
Yeah.
ex-girlfriends, she's the crazy ex-girlfriend.
Hey-oh.
Oh.
She's credited as Annette, so I'm assuming that's the therapist.
Yeah, I would assume so. And I love Rachel Bloom. Like, Rachel Bloom's money in the bank, but just no presence in this episode, really. Like, does not make an impact.
Mm.
Because the character is nothing.
There was no tennis court, so yes, Annette must have been the therapist.
Interesting.
I mean, people drive while they listen to this, and that much cringe might cause an accident.
Just people's arms folding in with, whoops.
Yes, if you are listening to this episode, pull over
Which I will be, so I'm in
and
danger.
stare at the stars
Aw, that's
and
nice.
reflect on better episodes.
And then you'll be late for your job at the dickhead factory.
You will be. And they do not tolerate lateness over there.
Oh,
Especially
no.
not on the night shift.
They're very punctual dickheads.
Very punctual dickheads.
They punch in
BPD.
on time. But ultimately, does this feel like an episode of The Simpsons? This remind us of the show we know and love?
I mean, good God, no. This is something that's hollowing out the show we know and love. Just to produce another episode and get on with it. Like, I don't know if I really made this clear enough, but I hated this one. I genuinely, by the end, blood boiling, both middle fingers up at the screen.
Wow.
Absolutely hated it.
I felt like that feels like we're getting into rankings territory, but like, I don't know, still integrity-wise, like, I get what you're saying, BT, but like I said, I don't know, maybe it's just that the episode itself feels so inconsequential that I'm like, sure.
Yeah, integrity-wise, Homer and Abe have a great relationship from this point on.
Yeah, true.
Homer clearly knew his mother was alive at the age of 16. You know, I just...
Yeah,
I was about to apologize for harping on minor points. No, I'm not. I'm single now.
That would require you to do a lot of work to undo the last several decades of your life.
A lot of time with my online therapist.
I mean, it feels so clearly like it's trying to be an episode of The Simpsons. And it feels like that because it keeps showing you things from other episodes of The Simpsons. But no, I could see where it was going, but I don't like what it did when it got there.
But yes or no, would you watch this one again?
No.
I just saw the third of my groan notes, and the answer is definitely no.
What would you like to change? We'll start with you, James.
I feel like it's always a bit of a cop-out when you say, like, the thing I would change is to just not do the episode. But I do feel like with Mona, the first episode just hits so hard and is so well done and stands alone so effectively that every time we do one of these fucking Mona episodes, I just wish they would leave her alone.
Really diminishing returns.
And I think if you have to go back to the Mona well, like, the key is to not do another flashback, and it's to, examine what is Homer's relationship to his mother now that she has canonically been dead for, 20 years, or whenever they killed her off on the show. And, how does he still, sort of honor her memory from his current position without needing to, flashback to new information from their past? Because he would have a weird contentious relationship with her, and you could make an interesting episode about that. And that is so fundamentally not what they have done that it feels almost moot to suggest it. But yeah, I just think going back to this flashback sometimes makes sense, but for this whole plot line, it just strikes me as ridiculous and arbitrary and kind of terrible.
How about you, Nick? What would you like to change?
I'd like to change the line when Homer goes to Reverend Lovejoy and says, I lost my mum 30 years ago. What do I do? And Lovejoy says, have you tried another religion? Like, that's just the weakest fucking joke I've ever seen in The Simpsons.
But Nick, he has a mustache this time.
Yeah, it's the past.
What does it mean? Like, it annoyed me. It annoyed me a lot. There was also another wall of text joke going to the last ad break. Not that there are ad breaks on Disney Plus, but where they would have gone to it. of the therapy app when Bart says something.
Yeah.
The therapy app goes, "Misbehaving child, have you tried any of these pacifying drugs?" And then it's just a slow crawling list of really bad names for
I wrote some
drugs
down.
for kids.
I knew this would come up.
One of them was like, "Shut 'em up," or like,
knock 'em out, quiet time written with a Y, snooze it, insta-nap, lullaby.
Yeah, just powerfully lame shit.
like snooze it, an insta nap.
Yeah.
What in the fuck are you doing?
Look,
Yep.
they were just on a roll that day. They couldn't pick just one.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
first they got all those mutt flick titles that we have to pan across, and just God, every one of those was a winner, and so we had to do this as well. This is the thing I think where we're talking about all the other things about this that sucked rather than the usual everyday suck that The Simpsons have, and this is just this long pan across things they think is funny that just goes on far beyond any point of interest.
Well, one of the great things about what you guys often call the whiteboard style of Simpsons writing jokes, where everyone just throws everything up, one of the great things about a whiteboard is you can very easily erase shit from it. Like the
they
whiteboard,
lost their eraser.
the whiteboard doesn't have to become your script. And I feel like in this episode, it did.
Al Jean does strike me as somebody who would accidentally use permanent marker on a whiteboard, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyway, that's what I would change. So obviously all of James's points about, massive underlying plot structure. I mean, those are all valid points, but those are the very two specific jokes I would change. Reverend Lovejoy and the stupid drug names.
All right, getting specific. How about you, BT? Have you got some specific or otherwise broad changes you'd like to make?
We've come up with them on this thing, so just change it so when Homer leaves, Abe is asleep in the back. He wakes up partway through. He's all like, "What the hell are we doing out here?" He's like, "I got a postcard from Mom." He's like, "No, you didn't. She doesn't care about you. She's left. She's gone. It's over. But I'm going to go with you to prove what an idiot you are." Over the course of that, they get to know each other a little bit better. Abe gives up his drinking. Then they have a moment where they basically do get to where Mona is, and depending on how you want to do this, you can do this differently, but I kind of like the idea of Abe finding Mona first and being like,
Ooh.
if you're going to leave, you have to leave, because things are just getting okay with me and him now, and I'm the parent he's got, and if you want to be on the run, you can't drag him into this, or something like that. And then, Homer never actually sees Mona and goes, "Oh, I guess it was a mistake," or something like that. But Abe and Homer have a moment together where like, "Ah, look, son, you may not like me, but we've got each other." And they have that moment sitting on the hood of the car together, looking at the stars, as, at that moment of, well, we're all each other, we've got, and I love you, Dad. And then the music plays and they all drink lemonade. And it's got an arc to it.
It would have been so easy to say, like, Homer, pull over at this gas station because I need to go in and use the restroom. Homer's just sitting in the car. Abe goes in, sees Mona. They have the interaction. She looks out the window, sees Homer. And then you can still, even if you still have the FBI people coming in, like, which is how this episode ends.
Which was
like you can still do that, and Mona can still be on the run. But then, yeah, you're right. It preserves the integrity of Homer not knowing. And I actually think that the audience would have more sympathy for Homer coming out of the episode because we know what's going on.
Yeah.
But Homer doesn't because
It's
at
that
the end of this
heartbreak of
episode,
getting so close and just missing.
yeah. And it is Homer's decision to not chase after Mona because he goes back to Abe. But yeah, no, BT, I think you're really onto
I
something.
wonder if there was anyone in the room who pitched this. It seems like such a straightforward way of doing it.
Absolutely, because the bit they have is Abe kind of gets stuck in the canyon. He's like, "Go on, go get her," and Homer can see Mona getting away, and then comes back a moment and goes back and gets Abe out of the crevice. Which is, to be fair, Abe is like, "That was a stupid idea. What'd you do that for?" But just because you point out that it's a stupid idea doesn't save it from being very dumb. Like, Abe is in no peril. He's kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was weird.
And even though the FBI guys are chasing down Abe, Abe's not the one they want.
Yeah.
The FBI
No, they
guy
literally try and crawl over him.
Yeah, they serve no danger to him.
Yeah.
Wasn't it in the original? Like, the FBI weren't even that involved. It was mostly Mr. Burns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what the hell's going on?
Yeah, so the episode tries to make a point that the FBI should be catching other criminals, but yeah, if they were funded by Mr. Burns, like, yeah, that makes more sense plot-wise why they are so dedicated to catching her. And
Yeah, he was the driving force. And
yeah, there's no Burns in this episode at all.
Nope.
So yeah, I'm going to sound really clever and say that's what I'd like to change, and that was what I was thinking ages ago. Thank you for prompting me.
I'll change what she's changing.
But I think a lot of these Mona episodes get close to the idea of how it's impacting Homer and Marge's relationship and how she feels about her and how Homer's acting and that she was and it gets close, and it's even on Mother's Day, and one where Marge is feeling particularly forgotten about and things like that and not appreciated, and then the episode is just totally not about her. It's more about Santa's little helper's fucking mother than it is about her.
Like, they try to bring that back by having, they take her out for dinner and Marge is like, everything I need is in this room. It's like she's been such a little part of it up until this point that it doesn't matter.
You know who's not at that dinner? Marge's mum, who is still alive in the canon of the show.
Who should have died in that episode, the Surfsons. I can't believe they didn't have the balls to do it then. It would have been a perfect ending to that ep. But we've already reviewed that one, and it's time for us to finish reviewing that. But first we must do our final notes.
And now it's time for our final notes. Everyone's final notes.
Final notes.
Nick, we'll start with you. Do you have final notes?
I have one final note, which is, and it goes against some of what I said before, but when Mona looks out the window of the gas station and sees Homer, it's in the middle of an emotional speech about, I've got a son who's about 16 years old and I'm never going to see him. Oh, there he is. Like, I actually laughed out loud at that. The line delivery, the comic timing on, there he is, was good enough that it made me laugh.
Yeah. There we go.
Final note.
James.
Look, with apologies, I have several final notes, but I'll try to go through them quickly. Let's see. We have Sherry Bobbins right at the start. Don't know why. She's there. So it goes. In that television montage, the movie Alien very briefly flashes up on the screen, which, one, the best second of the episode because I love the movie Alien.
Yep.
2, are any Simpson stars in the movie Alien? Can you cover that?
Oh, I don't think so.
Was Harry Dean Stanton ever on The Simpsons?
No, but he's come up a lot in starring Springfield. That man was in everything.
Yeah, because he's the best.
Yeah.
There's when they're watching Muttflix, Bart starts acting like a dog. I don't know if this is part of his character. This doesn't really make sense to me. I don't know why he's scratching behind his ear. That's more of a Homer thing.
Oh my
whatever.
God. Sorry, just looking at the Alien cast, there's a lady called Veronica Cartwright in it, but no, not Nancy.
I'm literally also looking at the cast, and I was about to bring that up, but I know that just a quick behind the scenes for anyone. One of my favorite things to do is to send Elliot messages with movies that I know will not meet criteria for starring Springfield, but I do it anyway and try and put forward my 2 cents of why it should be.
You've probably got a nice collection of my politely declining your requests now.
Oh yeah, I mean that's not really in the spirit of ... Great movie though. I don't care, man. I've never heard of it.
I had a note. Has anyone read the great Jeanette McCurdy book, I'm Glad My Mum Died? I think it's called. The sort of, she was like a Nickelodeon star
She was the second banana on iCarly.
Yes, and then her mother died when she was in her 20s, and she sort of gradually over time realized the terrible influence her mother had over her life. Great book. That's my recommendation. I know that's a very popular book, so I probably don't need to recommend it, but still. I was just thinking about it during this
Jeanette
episode.
McCurdy will be glad for the index bump.
Oh, absolutely. Jeanette, if you're out there and would like to be on the index, I'm not actually a part of this podcast, but I'm inviting you anyway. Lisa has a very old iPhone on this episode. It's one of those classic, other writers just a bit out of touch with technology things where she seems to have an iPhone 6.
Has it got a home button?
It does have a home button.
Oh, that's so out of date now.
No one owns a home anymore.
Oh, Jesus.
There's the joke about the FBI van still has Flowers by Irene, which is an old joke, but they're repeating it. Didn't bother to come up with a new one, but then there was a new one after it, but I didn't write it down because it wasn't good enough.
I think there were 3 new ones after it.
Oh, okay, because, I caught falafels baked instantly.
Yeah, and there was something about balloons as well.
Festive balloon something.
Oh, okay.
Industries
Yeah, because
as
we
well.
did review an episode recently where, the FBI swarmed on it. So I can't remember. It's the new Simpsons. Hard to remember. But, there were, 8 vans, and they all had their own FBI Flowers by Irene joke, including that one. So,
Well, that's fundamentally better than what this one did. Back to that terrible Game of Bones parody thing where they're talking about Bran being a cat as the joke. Like, Bran isn't really analogous to a cat. He's the three-eyed raven. Like, and they should make a joke about Bran being a bird if they're going to go with a different animal. It's stupid.
But then Santa's little helper and his mother growl at Snowball. It's comedy.
It's not comedy, though. It's nothing.
Oh, shit. Well, I'm all turned around on the idea.
Why was the entire family sitting and watching Homer's therapy session on his phone? That feels like an inappropriate family activity.
And you'd think the therapist would say, "Hey, these people all need to fuck off." I mean, maybe not in that term, but along those lines.
Think about Elliot politely declining all your movie recommendations and put that into therapists. It's not quite in the spirit of what we're doing here.
The therapist there on the app going, "Well, they guested once, but I mean, it's really more of a core cast kind of concept."
I can hear my cat screaming in the background, so sorry if she's coming through on the mic at all. Is
that Bran?
It is Bran. Bran, the three-eyed cat raven. There is the guidance counselor from Bart the Genius pops up, which is kind of interesting.
Weird cut.
Giving advice to a young Homer, and it like feels so specifically them that it's same with Chief Wiggum. I just have a couple of notes as, wait, what's the age difference between Homer and this character? Like, yeah,
because Wiggum, I guess, has to be a little older than him, but then thinking back, Wiggum was already a cop when Mona did the thing she had to run away from.
As a security guard, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That is something I was going to point out because, like, this episode says, he discovered donuts and that's when he became obese. He was already obese and having breathing problems when he was the security guard at Burns's chemical factory or whatever.
Got over his asthma, though. I have a note here that says, pausing the episode to write notes is making me hate it even more. There's a weird thing where when they're driving, they say they're driving through the Badlands, and then there's this sort of musical homage to the wonderful Terrence Malick film Badlands that plays, and I thought, we're about to get a sort of light satirical parody of the wonderful Terrence Malick film Badlands. Tell you what, we do not. We just get the music sting a few times. Absolutely nothing else from Badlands is in this episode.
Oh, so that's what that jingly, xylophony, glockenspiel music sort of needled look like, because they've done that before, and the music reminds me a little of True Romance, and I was like, surely that's not a reference to that. No, it's just me showing my ass here. I do not know this Terrence Malick film or any Terrence Malick films, I don't think.
You got to get around Terrence Malick. You got to watch The Tree of Life and Days of Heaven and what are the other ones? The Thin Red Line and all the others.
All the others. You heard it here first, folks.
Is Terrence Malick the one that played Freddie Mercury?
No, that's Rami Malek.
Are they related?
Hey, that's pretty close by judging by my normal name association standards.
It still doesn't qualify for starring Springfield. Two Maliks. I say sorry politely.
There's a scene where they stop in a diner and the sort of the diner waitress talks to Abe, and Abe is like sort of they talk through the plot beats you would go through if they decide to start a relationship. Yeah. And it is so tedious that I think it might constitute like an act of warfare. I'm so dispirited by this scene and how poorly done it was.
Well, I'll give it that it was like, can we skip the part where we X? And Abe just sort of keeps going. It's like, can we skip the first base, which is this? And then we skip the second base, which is this. Blah, 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 blah. It keeps going until he's like, and then we break up. We had a lot of good times. So, like, there was a more efficient way to do this where the joke, quote unquote, could come across, but yeah, tedious.
Oh, yeah, an act of just pure villainy. There's a weird flashback to, I guess, Vietnam with the dog tags joke. There's if you haven't seen this episode, there's a weird part in the middle where Abe flashes back to getting his friend's dog tags and then realizing he never gave them to like the guy's wife, and then it's been passed down generation to generation, and it fucking goes nowhere. And doesn't really have a joke to it, and I was confused by it. Confused and annoyed.
Yeah.
And also, like, Abe pulls his shirt collar and goes, and then the dog tags are under it. And it's like, have you not had a shower since the end of the Vietnam War?
Abe, who has not been in the episode prior to this, and suddenly is in the Simpsons house, is commenting on things.
He went to pick up Santa's little helper's mother.
They go to the same
Oh.
retirement village.
Because Jasper didn't want to come alone.
Oh.
There's a joke about Bart after he's just been born turning to Moon Homer.
Which one's Bart?
He's the little boy with the little dick, and he's turning to. Sorry, he turns to Moon his father as a little baby, and they've already done that joke. They did it back in season 3,
swear
and
he
it
was
was
Moon.
much funnier because it was when he was still in the womb, and
Oh yeah.
it was Hibbert saying like, "I swear he's trying to moon me." It was done better,
Yeah.
and it was annoying to see it pop up again. I think that is all I have. I also have an ad here about there was a pop-up saying that the therapy was going to be interrupted by a Toyota ad in 3 minutes, and that's nearly a joke. So that's, that gets my mildest of ticks next to it.
Toyota's a pretty funny word.
That was my actual joke of the episode, but only because I've been watching Taskmaster, the Australian version, which is on Channel 10, which means I have to use the fucking Channel 10 app. And the way that their ads integrated into their app is so horrendously, hilariously broken that and because you often get the same ad, and I don't know if it's a Toyota or another car, but I seem to get that same car ad all the time. So that tickled me, but that was, I guess, more based on personal experience.
But also having the countdown 3 minutes and a half out is kind of like,
very odd.
why are you doing that? Why don't you make it how it would actually work? It's a bit odd.
Oh, there was one time where I had to relaunch the app because it said program set to resume in like 1,500 minutes, and we're like, oh, surely it'll get to like 1.5 minutes and realize what it's done. No, it just kept playing ads. It was.
So I may have mentioned this on an earlier episode of The Index. I was once watching something on YouTube in the days when I wasn't paying for YouTube Premium, a thing I'm now doing because I watch more YouTube than anything else. And there was an ad that came up where like someone had clearly done like a DIY like sponsored ad. Because it was an ad, it had the artwork for an album and it had the track list down the side. And I looked the album up because I forget what it was. It was like a guy, imagine like a Greek man in his 60s. That's what the album art was. So I looked it up and it was an album by someone that no one's ever heard of with no sales. But the ad was like 73 minutes long.
Yeah.
It was the entire album.
I've seen those.
And I was just sitting on the couch going, at what point do I skip this? Because 15 seconds in, the skip ad button comes up, and I'm like, well, I mean, he's paid for a 72-minute ad. He must be confident in the quality of his album. I couldn't understand a word.
And
bizarre.
so you've listened to it 10 times now for your new podcast about the...
Yeah, it's Pods in the Key of Stomati.
I was going to say Greeks in the key of Springfield.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that also would have worked, I suppose.
We'll work this in the room later.
Yep.
Until then, BT, have you got some final notes?
Of course I do. Look, a couple of jokes I thought were okay-ish, where Homer's all like, my mum's alive. Why was there no funeral? And Abe's like, I had a lot going on. My wife just died.
Yeah, I didn't mind that.
Yep. It's kind of an okay joke of where Homer's like, why'd you go to Utah? Every kid already has more mums than he needs. I was like,
Take that, Utah.
The groin three I mentioned earlier is when we do this flashback to, I was about to say what might be Vietnam, but I don't think the uniforms are correct. Anyway, well, Jordan Zane called it later, so maybe that's Korea, whatever. Yeah, there's a bit where Abe's in a foxhole with his best friend Charlie, and like, we're gonna get out of here one day, Charlie. Don't you worry. Oh no, didn't you used to have the rest of your bottom half? I'm like, fuck. You could just see that coming from a mile and a half off, and it was so. He's like, dull.
And they never show it.
Yeah, it was just.
I'd like to see the gore.
Yeah.
Yes, let's see the Charlie's bottom half cut.
Again. This entire joke exists for that dog tag bit. Like, there's nothing else going on here.
Oh, do you mean the dog tag bit that also went fucking nowhere?
That, funnily enough, didn't have a tag.
Oh, good.
Or tie
Zing.
into the dog-heavy episode.
And then my last note is, for some reason, right before the credits and over them, there's this black and white like film homage, I have to assume, where all these versions of Homer are dancing around and Mona's there. And I have no idea what this is a reference to, and it was stupid, and I didn't like it.
Some weird dream sequence?
I was going to ask James what movie that was referencing, because
I Look, I also didn't know, and I feel like if I liked this episode more, I probably would have looked into it just to see, like, oh, what was that thing at the end? But by the end, I was just so ready to be done with this.
Yeah, even if we don't get the reference, it feels like that still doesn't serve a point. Like, is it meant to be he's got a sense of moving on? But I don't get that from what we get. It's just a bunch of different Homers dancing around, and I don't know what to make of it.
I think it's really funny when I'm doing the research for these episodes, and like, it's obvious that the fan community are really not getting around these newer episodes either, because the Wikipedia and IMDb pages are just so hilariously significantly smaller than the classic era. Like, if anything, these new episodes have way more references than a classic era episode would, but no references tab on the Wikipedia article. It's just people like, here's the plot. Fucking Tony Sokol from Den of Geek gave it way too high a score, and fucking Dennis Perkins hated it. Whatever.
Good old wild
That's your
card.
Wikipedia page.
Poor Dennis Perkins.
Still going to have him on this show.
Got run out of town by Yardley Smith.
Would it have been a tag for Homer to give Bart the dog tag? Bart goes, well, I'm not a dog. Bart gives them to Santa's little helper. Santa's little helper thinks, oh, I'm going to give these to my mum. And then the mum dog wears it as a necklace and she really likes it. Good. Remember? Sure. It's a Mother's Day episode.
Yeah, it brings it to something.
It's some purpose for the dog tag bit.
That thing at the end is a homage to the Federico Fellini movie 8.5, and frankly, it is a little embarrassing that none of us have seen 8.5.
Look, I don't feel embarrassed.
Do I have to say the other...
The other 8, 7.5, I don't know.
Well, I was just thinking, would 8 come before 8.5? I was like, oh.
I guess if they're going in halves, you have to have seen the other, 16.
Yeah.
But it also just shows how short this episode was. The fact that we have these multiple extended gags that don't go anywhere, and these bits that do nothing, and this whole montage this tribute at the end that none of us understood in a, what should be an emotionally heavy episode with no arc. You had the time if you were being more efficient.
And yeah, just the constant repeated references to Mutt flicks. Although, yeah, when we were first talking about it, I was trying to find this joke because I did quite like it, which was, it goes on to Fox News and it's 4 foxes and they're all just barking at each other. And I'm like, not bad. Not bad.
Sure, whatever.
Bit of political commentary right there. Oh, very spicy.
I'm surprised they've never done that before.
Yeah.
Yep.
They also just had a shot of a small basket of puppies, and it amused me because I was actually remembering recently, I don't know if you know the heavy metal band Anthrax, but around the time of, when was it? Must have been October of 2001. They made a fake press release.
Is that when they were getting? Is that when they were getting posted around to various offices in New York?
That's it. And they released a fake press release saying, in light of these events, we're changing our name to Small Basket of Puppies. And
sure.
Especially funny when you consider the New Zealand band She Had, who, when they were trying to break in America at a similar time, genuinely changed their name to Pacifier and did not succeed. Anyway.
And they broke up last week, She Had.
They were still together?
Everyone's reaction.
There was an article on news.com.au being like, yeah, we've made the difficult decision. It's finally time to call it a day.
Wow.
Like when you find out Grey's Anatomy is still going. Really? What?
The book?
The Anatomy?
The
that was
textbook has
real
never been
fucking
better.
Jim Varney on Conan vibes right then.
Why, howdy. That's not a good Jim Varney. Anyway.
Oh, wait, no. Wait, is Jim Varney Ernest? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Jim Varney's Ernest.
Oh, okay. Who am I thinking of?
He's also Slinky.
The guy that was on Conan and was like Epstein, the financier? Anyway.
Epstein was on Conan?
I know what you're referring to, but I don't remember that man's name.
Anyway, he was the game show host in Billy Madison. Whatever. Yeah, another weird, awkward, dragged-out joke where Homer goes, oh, we'll need to get Dad an elephant coffin, and everyone's like, whoa, and then he goes, the cat liked it, and Cat was like, eh. Yeah. Again, why are we doing this? Do you not have a backspace key?
It's on the whiteboard now.
Which, as we know, can never come off.
Like Al Jean just puts white out on his computer screen and on the
whiteboard.
And then doesn't
That's
know
why they
what's in
call
the
it a
screen.
whiteboard.
Whiteboard. I need another monitor. This one's covered in whiteout. Or for any British listeners, this one's covered in Tipex.
What do they call a monitor, though?
My digital window's covered in Tipex.
Oh, blimey, I ain't half covered this one in Tipex.
Now, what I've done here is I've taken your digital window and I've covered it in Tipex, and you'll have to get a new digital window.
Batman Begin.
Did you fucking see when there was, I forget if it was the Batman Begin or if it was another one, but he tweeted something. This is Michael Caine, tweeted something bananas, and then like 20 minutes later just went, calm down, everybody.
Yes.
Oh, are you triggered?
Oh, no, I just...
Okay. I like the idea of Michael Caine as like a
Edgelord.
edgy comedian.
9:18, my app said AM, but this I'm only saying this for the relative time.
Mm-hmm.
At 9:18, he tweets, "What's it all about?" And then at 9:26, he tweets, "Calm down." I love the idea of people responding, being like, well, it's this or that. Or it's just like, well, I don't want to read all your responses, actually. Calm down, everyone. Sorry. One last huge diversion before the end of the pod.
And speaking of which, they point that out as like, oh, it's okay, therapist. We've had a lot of digressions. And then Grandpa's like, you want me to do a digression? Well, do you remember shoes? Blah, blah, nah.
Blah.
All right, it's time to rank this thing. On the Simpsons Index, we rank using a 6-point scale, which starts down the bottom at failure. Maybe if the episode was just, you give it a participant. But for the positive rankings, you got okay, bronze, good, silver, excellent, gold, and for the best of the very best, you give cubic zirconia. I'm going to go first. Let me show you how it's done. Big old participant from me. It's, I said it just felt inconsequential to watch. This chat has brought me down on it significantly, but I'm following my heart guts. It feels participant-y, BT. What do you think?
I mean, do I even need to say it? I came in with
For the
arms
record.
out red. For the record, big old hardcore failure. I want a Mortal Kombat uppercut, knock it into the pit, and where it lands on spikes. I want to lean out from the shadows and stab it several times before leaving its corpse in an alleyway. Fuck this episode forever.
All right. James, how about you? What would you like to rank it?
I feel like I've had a lot of conversations over the last few years about The Simpsons where I've said to people, you know, if you watch some of the more recent episodes, there's actually a few okay ones. Like, it's not as good as it was back in the day, but there's a handful that are pretty watchable, have a few ideas. There's been an uptick.
In this season, no less.
Mm.
And then I see an episode like this, and I feel like if this was the one I recommended, if I recommended somebody just, you know, check out an episode from this season, and this is the one they watched, they would maybe come back and throw acid in my face. This episode is foul. It is vile. I hated it deep in my bones, and I am giving it a fail minus.
Whoa.
Wow.
Introducing the new lows on this podcast. How about you, Nick?
Can you guys remind me, because I think I've heard you talk about this test previously, where if something is forgettable and you will never think about it again, that makes it a participant?
Arguably, yeah.
That's, the general thing, but there is such a thing of being so middle of the road and unambitious that it doesn't deserve a participant as well. These are very floaty rankings.
We do generally say failure should at least make you angry or upset or offend you in some way.
Nick's leaning into a gold here, I can tell.
He's got them gold eyes. Them golden eyes.
No, this is my blue and black shirt. It's not white and gold.
Brought of all references to bring back. Beautiful, man.
I know. Why is that one coming back?
Loved it.
I'm going to go participant because I didn't like it, but I will never think of it again.
Yeah, that's pretty much the way it goes. Like, you know, even if, you know, you're building a playlist out of Mona Simpson, like, there's just an argument to be made of just watch the first one, because it's
a playlist of one.
Yeah, it is such a series of diminishing returns. But, you know, if we're talking about checking out season 33, Beach, you said it before, in this season, there's some fucking gold in them hills. Like, recently we reviewed Lisa's Belly, which is our top ranking episode, which got 2 golds and a silver. We quite enjoyed that one.
Yeah, felt like almost like a classic.
Yeah. And Pixelated and Afraid, where Marge and Homer get lost in the woods and they're naked. And again, surprisingly good, ambitious episode. But
I quite liked Portrait of a Lackey on Fire. I'm looking, you gave it all bronze, and that's probably about right. But I thought it was nice.
Yeah, we finally get Smithers in a relationship. It's doesn't quite land, but hey, they went for it, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and cool animation moments with the Chernobyl reference and yeah, Bart the Cool Kid, another surprising one. I didn't think I'd like an episode that starred The Weeknd, but here we are. Like,
And you won't believe what this episode's about. Act 3 will shock you. Reviewed by me. I gave it a participant.
who insisted on saying the entire title every time it came up.
That sort of being, you won't believe what this episode's about. Act 3 will shock you, to be clear.
Thank you. Yeah, good.
For those that forgot in a couple of seconds. So yeah, look, there's fun to be had in season 33. Not here.
For real.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight and doing the index again.
Thanks for having us on.
Happy to be here. I'd forgotten how to podcast about The Simpsons with Nick specifically, but it's bringing back memories.
Yep, really irritating divergence, really bad jokes, Michael Caine accents, shit puns. It's all here, baby.
It's a shame your coffee maker didn't chime in at any point.
I missed the coffee.
Oh, I should have turned the fucking thing on just so I could turn it off again.
Oh yeah, did you also upgrade to a PlayStation 5? Because we haven't heard anything from PlayStation 4 at all.
Yes, I have a 4 and a 5 and a 3, and they're all plugged in.
PlayStation 4 has its own podcast now. It reviews Xbox 360 games. It's very confusing for SEO.
Pod Station.
Yep. Got things to plug, guys?
I've got a book coming out. I would like to plug that, if possible.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's been plugged here before because, one of the authors of that book also is a frequent guest on this podcast.
One of the authors of the book?
Yeah, Diana.
All right. Wait, what?
I think you're talking about a different book, James. Are you talking about the Goose Game book?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she didn't help you write that.
I am also in the book that Diana is in, but I already have all the money I'm getting out of that one, so I'm going to plug something else. My book about the making of Untitled Goose Game from Boss Fight Books is coming out early next year. I'm not sure exactly when, either January or February. If you're in Melbourne, you can pre-order it from Acme, the Australian Centre for the Moving Image. It's available in their shop there. If you are not in Melbourne, there will be other ways to buy it. You can buy it directly through Boss Fight Books. You will be able to order it through the online store Pixel Crib eventually. It'll be there. If you run into me on the street, maybe I'll have a copy that I'll sell to you.
Hell yeah.
There will be ways to get your hand on it, both in ebook and physical form. So it is a extended look at the making of Untitled Goose Game. I interviewed the devs. I talked to a bunch of other people. There's a chapter in there where I talked to a goose expert about whether the game is accurate or not. There's a bunch of stuff about the history of Australian game development. There's a lot of nice anecdotes. There's a story about me encountering a goose in Bali. There's all sorts of stuff in there. So
sounds amazing. I love it.
Yes, please buy my book.
Man, I love all that goose sizzle there, yeah.
I pre-ordered through the Kickstarter campaign and for a physical copy, and given the exchange rate to America at the time and the shipping, I think I might end up with the most expensive version of the book that is humanly possible for me to get.
Oh boy, I'll owe you a beer.
Well, that's fine. I'm also going to make you sign my book with something really nice.
Okay,
so.
I'll
Whether you want to or not.
I'll come up with something really awful to write in there. That'll be my.
See you in the car.
See you at the Dickhead Factory. Much love, James.
At least there's love.
Have you got anything to plug, Nick?
I'll give a plug for my stupid threadless shirts, nickibis.threadless.com. I put a new one up. I put a new design up the other day. It is a crossover Taylor Swift Blink-182 design.
About time, they said.
I thought the Venn diagram of Blink-182 and Taylor Swift fans was going to be a lot bigger than it is, because I have not sold a single one of these shirts yet. Because of course, Blink have a song called "Aliens Exist," and in Taylor's in the Tortured Poets Department set of the Eras tour, she has a big projection of a UFO with a searchlight that follows her.
Yeah.
So I took a graphic of that, changed it around a little bit, and then put "Up All Night Long" and "There's Something Very Wrong" from Aliens Exist on it. and I called it Talians Exist. And I keep tweeting about it on Blue Sky, and no one cares. So,
You're tweeting about it on Blue Sky?
That's a problem meant to be posting.
I keep posting about it to add to the skyline on Blue Sky. I can't get my terminology right. And you can't even tweet about things anymore. You have to post about them on X as well. Anyway, whatever.
Yep. And yeah, just while we're here, yeah, I've finally figured out Blue Sky, and I think I like that a bit more than Threads. So yeah, of course, follow us there and there. But yeah, it is funny you talking about the Venn diagrams of Taylor and Blink fans, Nick, because you probably already knew this, but at Homebush, the Sydney Olympic Park, we have a stadium and an arena that are in pretty close proximity to each other. And I got to say, the public transport the night that Taylor Swift and Blink-182 were playing those venues, I got to say, it worked surprisingly well because there were a lot of people there for, Taylor Swift, which is so sold out that there is just a group of like 1,000 people that'll sit outside the venue to listen to it. Blink-182 don't quite have that, but I do like to think that if you were there, you might have been sitting in the middle of those two things just absolutely lapping
trying
it
to
up.
listen to both concerts. Well, I saw Blink and Taylor in the same week, which was a really good week for me.
It is wild.
Can't wait to hear about it in your book, Captain Nick and the Very, Very Good Week, or whatever.
Untitled Music Listening Game.
Untitled Music Listening Game. That's a real end of the podcast line. I said
Good
funny
night,
things for an
everybody.
hour and a half. Let me go.
Well, maybe let me have a second run of that. Untitled Music Listening Game.
Well, what else do we do at the end of the pod but a quick couple of plugs for ourselves? So yeah, you probably heard us talking on the podcast before about starring Springfield. We've now made that a free podcast. It's got its own podcast feed. Check the links in the show notes or search Starring Springfield on all the podcast apps or YouTube. Just this week, we released our review of Click, and the downloads of that have been quite good. So
A lot of people have clicked, is what you're saying.
Oh,
a lot of clickheads out there.
They work at the Clickhead factory.
There we go.
Oh boy. Do I like the movie Click? Undecided.
I cried during the movie Click.
You did.
A lot of people love it, yeah.
Wow. Well, me and BT fell on different sides of the good-bad spectrum on that
On
one.
the Sandler spectrum.
I think I didn't like it. That sounds about right.
But yeah, next week we're reviewing Spinal Tap, a movie that is just objectively very good.
Literally the best movie.
And very hard to get now, which is bullshit.
Yeah, right.
I have like 3 copies of it.
Good.
I have
Hold
a
on to them.
DVD, I have a different DVD, and I have the Blu-ray. And I have a copy of Return of Spinal Tap on DVD.
Oh, damn.
Man, I want to
Nice.
come around yours to watch all the menus for that. 'Cause those are some of the best DVD menus ever.
so
They
good.
had the funniest, they have a commentary that is entirely in character. And then they also have a second commentary that is them doing commentary of the commentary in character again. It's so good.
Oh, they
Wonderful.
need to
Bring back commentaries.
Just get Spinal Tap to do commentary for every movie, though.
everything.
Yeah.
That and Michael Caine.
Yeah, when they can't get Michael McKean, yeah, Michael Caine will be a nice one-to-one replacement.
I don't think I'm in this movie.
Have I in this movie?
If you remove my skin, this is what my skeleton would look like underneath.
But BT, what if people want to get early access to Starring Springfield and other stuff we're doing?
They can head on over to patreon.com/SideQuest Studios, where you can get all those things we just talked about, which I'm not going to plug again because you already heard us say that. So, and there's also like 190 other podcasts.
200 now, actually.
Fuck,
Yeah.
we're good at this. Oh,
Yeah.
so much. Yeah, that. Go check it out. Do it.
Links to everything in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and once again, thank you for joining me tonight. Thank you, James.
You are welcome. I'm happy to be here. I like podcasts.
Anytime, man. And thank you, Nick.
Woozle Wuzzle.
Oh, shit.
Good, excellent exit line. And BT.
Apparently, I'm newly single and ready to mingle.
And yes, go check out our new app, Podcaster Date, where you get to date podcasters. But until then, I'm Elliot Jay O'Neill, and that's all the mustard in the house.
Bye.
What a dickheads in this house. Thank you for listening to the Simpsons Index podcast, which is also an online spreadsheet available at thesimpsonsindex.com. You can also check out our other shows, like Pulp Fury Radio, our scripted fiction podcast, which tells all original stories across a range of pulp genres, and Thrones of Game, where we review Game of Thrones in reverse order. Links to those podcasts and more will be available in the show notes. And now please stay tuned for the bonus scenes!
Get this recording before we lose any more fucking wonderful riffs.
Repeat everything we just said.
Definitely.
Solomon Grundy, the Addams Family.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Sorry I'm late.
Yeah, Nick, if you can just leave for 5 minutes, that'd be...
Yeah.
It's the,
Really set the mood again.
Every fucking time I come on a pod, they say, "Can you leave?"
Sorry, I'm late. I was working late at the Dickhead Factory.
So how do you finish the "I don't come down to where you work" joke?
I don't
Slap the dick out of your head.
Slap the dick out of your head, exactly. Oh, fuck. No, I am pulling in a lot of time at the Dickhead Factory recently.
Yeah, you really have been.
Yeah, I know. So, do I make the dickheads at the Dickhead Factory? Or is it just a factory where dickheads work?
You're in a supervisory role, so I don't really know exactly how the job
A
works.
supervisor? Oh, no.
Very few factories are called by the people that work there, so presumably you make the dickheads.
I guess I make the dickheads.
Now, you're one of those guys who goes on Reddit and says, "I've got this job at the Dickhead Factory and I've sort of slipped through the cracks and don't really have any work to do. Ask me anything."
See, that's really interesting because, most Reddit advice boils down to you should send them an invoice. Reddit people love telling people to send them an invoice. So, but the idea of someone saying, "Oh, I work at this job and actually I'm not qualified," and I don't, or you should send them an invoice. Well, I don't need to.
Look,
I'm
we
getting paid.
provided with you several dickheads of which you have not paid. Here is an invoice for your dickheads.
Here is an invoice for your dickheads. And don't forget, you can sign up on Patreon to SideQuest Studios.
Or a local mortician. You won't get that joke outside, so we weren't recording.